Let me into my zone. Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't.
Well, welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. Many things to talk about today. Bitcoin's moving once again. I got open trades running. We got to talk about the most important thing to be aware of for this next 3-day period. And god damn, man, this market's actually kind of fun right now. So with all of that said, I have a few announcements to make. There will be another sale with regards to all of the trading programs and even the Jewel, which is going to be brought back in about a week now for Christmas times and the New Year's times. So we'll start that sale beginning of next week. And if I can bring up my dates, what would that be? That would be the 22nd. So that'll run through the end of the year. Of course, it's the holiday season, and well, it's fucking un-American to not participate in consumer holidays like this. So we have to bring back the good old sale. So definitely hold off on buying any sort of programs if you were considering that for the next 4 or 5 days, whatever it ends up being from now until the 22nd, as it'll be 20% off for all programs, all payment plans up to 10 months. And of course, the Krown trading application is going to be coming out around that time as well. The base format of it will maybe not have the full functionality right now at launch, but it will have it will have all the most important things, of course. And we'll be building on it on top of that. And more importantly, it's going to be available to all platforms, all devices at launch. So really excited about that. And the Jewel is going to be coming along with it on a monthly basis. And what else do we want to talk about? Oh, yes, recorded a video with Jackie yesterday. It was a really great video because the purpose of it was for him to kind of talk about his mentoring group for psychology. However, we got a little bit carried away with talking about psychology to begin with. So the video is going to be like one part talking about strategies and whatnot, and of course psychology with regards to markets, and then the other part is actually discussing the program. So I'll upload that likely on Friday. His group will be starting the first week of January though. So with all of that said, I think I've said just about everything that I want to. Let me just make sure that my I'm going to start this early. I'm going to make sure that my microphone's recording. Yes, it is. No, my microphone's not recording, but my microphone's working and I am actually recording, so that's good. Anyways, I think it's time to get in the live scene. And like I said, a lot of fun stuff today. So I would like to wish you the best, the happiest. As you can see, it is literally pitch black outside right now. It's 8 a.m. It's a little bit after 8 a.m. right now. So I'm hitting that button. There she is. There she blows. Bitcoin on the 3-day actually, and this is perhaps going to be the most important thing and certainly the focus on this video right now. And that is the one trend line to rule them all. That is the white 200 simple right here on the 3-day dollar time frame, which is incredibly important. This is the focal point of all of the action for the next, really for the next 3 days, of course. But I'd say that this is going to be the focal point for action for the next, this is the focal point for action for basically until we get resolution on this next phase. So we actually officially broke the 200 simple moving average yesterday on the 3-day with yesterday's closure, well below it. And of course, it's not just a close below it that destroys this bitch, but it is an open and close, which we are now going to be working on with this next 3-day dollar that we just got last night. So we won't be able to confirm this until actually the 21st of September close. But if we do open and close this next 3-day dollar below the 200 simple, which is coming in a little bit below 69.50-ish region, then yes, I would be looking for price action to really take a massive another move to the downside. Of course, these things don't typically happen like snap of fingers, and of course, this is a 3-day, so we got a lot of action to kind of fill out before then. But you can see from the historical relevancy of this that it has been a phenomenal phase decider of where we are in Bitcoin land. Whenever we're above it, generally good. Whenever we're below it, generally bad. And when we fuck around and chop around on it, those are your big turning points within the market. So you can see this one right here. Bitcoin tries to double bottom on this first on this first attempt in 2014, we chop around it for a little bit, gets rejected a few times, and then boom, major move down. And then once we actually take it back out to the upside, right on over here, glory times once again. Same thing in 2018, right on over here, and same thing to the upside, right on over here. And then of course, what we're doing right now is we actually just broke it. So there's two prongs of it. It's obviously price action's relationship to that, and then also opens and closes on top of that. So that kind of sets in the more long-term trajectory, and you can see that it's not perfect, and I'm not, and moving averages aren't perfect, of course. I absolutely hate that they've become a meme in this market, along with gaps and all other very useful things, just because people people always want to use the moving averages that show them what they want to see, like the 50 and the 100 on the fucking weekly. It's like, goddamn, man, Jesus Christ. I can definitely understand why people think TA is just a pseudoscience bullshit, and it is, and that's coming from someone who uses it to generate their living, essentially. But I will be the first one to tell you that it's not perfect. Anyways, you do see that we do like to chop around a little bit on our first sort of attempts down around it. So you can see over here, actually it was kind of a clean break, to be fair. Once we get an open and close below this, that is the death sentence. Now we do base off it, 1, 2, 3 times right here. But as soon as we get an open and close below it, boom, massive move to the downside. That doesn't mean that we can't pop back up and test it, but I would expect it to be an extremely strong resistance going onwards and forwards here. $7,000 or a little bit below $7,000 is going to be the area to watch, in my opinion. Same thing to the upside right on over here. We get that first girthy green dildo closing above it. However, we don't get an opening close above it until this area right here, which sets in the long term for the next 2-3 years straight to the upside. And then same thing to the downside in 2018 right here. We break it once, it crawls back above. That's why I want to see an open and close. And it's not until we open and close below right here, we come back up, retest it, boom, down, massive move down. And same thing to the upside right here. Get our first open and close right here, come back down, retest it a little bit too much of a washout move right there, but fair enough. And then glory times once again, almost a 2x from that price point. Actually about a 2x from that price point. And then same thing on this area right on over here. We base on it, 1, 2, 3, 4 times. We actually officially break it right here. We're gonna have a chance to both open and close below it. So I actually did take some shorts off this yesterday, and I will, and for full transparency, I'll show my streamer account right here. I've been showing this on Twitch quite a bit, actually. And I forgot to talk about Twitch this at the beginning. We've been doing a lot of live streams on Twitch recently. I'm gonna continue to do the uploaded videos on YouTube. Because I think that's the best way to kind of handle this, and then do the live streams on Twitch and in Mixer. And the link is in the description of this video to those social media venues. I know that some people don't care for the live streams. I know that some people love the live streams. I love the live streams, but I also love not doing the same fucking thing every goddamn day. And I completely understand why some people are, not so thrilled by it, myself included. So we've kind of found a little bit of a workaround with that, and you're more than welcome to join. It's been a shit ton of fun. And in this position, I started yesterday on stream. I shorted 200,000 contracts at 69.07.5. I closed 3/4 of that, a little bit below 6,700, and so I realized about a little bit over 0.5 Bitcoin. And I'm running about 0.25, another quarter Bitcoin profit right now if I were to close right here. But that's actually not what I'm going to do. I am intent to kind of trade, let this one roll. And that's because, again, I closed already 3/4 of that. So to me, this is a risk-free trade. And more importantly, if we go down to the lower time frames, which we'll get into now, and then we'll kind of build it back up to the higher time frames, although we won't go over long-term analysis here. Definitely go check out the long-term analysis playlist if you want more of that. But what I'll do, and the reason why I kind of like this to keep that, that last little portion open, is because I have a very easy stop right here, and I have a stop in profit. So it's a risk-free trade and also just a guaranteed profit trade, unless if like BitMEX engine just completely shits the bed, and weirder things have happened, to be fair. So yes, I have a stop, a little bit in profit. And I'm willing to let the rest of this roll, as we're quite literally downtrending on every time frame that matters. But here's the thing: is Bitcoin ready for a bounce here? Well, and I just said we'll go to the lower time frames, but we need to go back to the 3-day for a second here. Is it likely that Bitcoin actually does bounce here? Well, typically speaking, we do come back and retest the 200 simple at least once after we've kind of broken it. Even on the successful attempts. So with that said, I actually do think that'll end up getting stopped out of this, out of the rest of this position, but I will likely re-put on the position a little bit higher, somewhere around the 200 simple or 10 simple, anywhere in this zone right here between about 7,000 to 7,100, that's 7,200 by the 200 simple. Is where I'd be interested in. So if we do get a rally back up there in the next 3-day period, that's kind of where I'm interested in putting potentially a trending position in once again. But as Bitcoin, slumps its way down, I'm happy to play the trend on the lower time frames as well as the higher time frames by holding the rest of that position, and of course realizing some. So that's essentially what I'm doing right now. I'm going to go back down to the lower time frames here, and let's see, are we building up any sort of divergences? Anything that suggests that we are ready to bounce, like right here, right now? Looking at 4 hour, we have absolutely no bullish divergence at all whatsoever. Historical volatility percentile is actually just continuing to expand here from absolute lows. So that to me is a big deal, because it's saying that this move is actually still kind of likely to trend. Not kind of likely to trend, it is likely to trend, because I mean, well, quite literally, we are expanding from pretty much a null read. And if we're expanding from a null read, then we have plenty of room to fucking roll here, even though momentum oscillators like your Stokes are going to be very, very, well, they're not, they're very overdone. And we are kind of wedged into this area right here. Following this trend line. And typically when you get a signature like this, it actually does break to the upside. To be fair, it's a little bit too aggressive, at least from what I've seen in Bitcoin land on the lower time frames. So going back into this right here, do I think that it's possible that we actually do, come back down to the prior lows and maybe set in some divergence right around there? Yes. Remember, that was the proverbial target of our descending triangle right here. Also kind of a structural break below the 618 if you're looking at it from a Fibonacci perspective, and it hit the target just about to the T. And I don't say these things to sound arrogant or anything like that. It's just, it's just very, very simple type stuff. And at the end of the day, man, I'm not the biggest pattern trader myself, but what I can say is that triangles do seem to work out extremely well in Bitcoin, and I'm always happy to play a triangle in Bitcoin. I love triangles, hate everything else pretty much, as I don't think it has a very high degree of playing out. And the people who have been calling falling wedge the whole goddamn way down from 9,000 have been wrong the whole way through, and falling wedges have a very, very low degree hit rate in Bitcoin land. Anyways, let me get rid of this trend line right here. We will come back to that a little bit later, but for right now, we are hanging out around the target. The target to move from that descending triangle, also the 886 Fibonacci retracement right here. So, is Bitcoin due for a little bit of a pity bounce? It could be. I don't have a super strong opinion on this. I do think that it's actually kind of likely that the next 3-day does pop back up and test around the breakdown point. So anywhere between about 6950 to 7200ish region would be okay. But I'm not beholden to that. And we actually do have structural breakages here, and we also do have new lows being closed on a daily dollar time frame perspective. So a lot of things to be aware of here, and while I wouldn't call a bounce here. What I would say is that if we do bounce here, I'm interested in putting positions back on higher. Now, looking at the daily, does it look like we're going to bounce here? Actually, no. All higher timeframes are still trending and trending very hard to the downside. We have all lower periods trending below higher periods on the daily. And we have all major moving averages with a negative slope, every single fucking one of them, including the 200 simple, which has taken a massive nosedive here. So we can go a little bit more deep into this one, but basically this is the same sort of setup that we had back on over in 2018 on this bull trap right here, where Bitcoin pops all the way up, gets rejected by the 200 simple right here. Then we see all major moving averages go below, all lower periods go below higher periods right here. We get the cyan 89 exponential moving average crossing to the downside of the 200 right here, which was kind of what we just did in the past week, and talking about it on the more proximal times. And then Bitcoin goes through a little bit of a sideways consolidation, tests up to the 21, gets rejected once, gets rejected twice, and then boom, major move down as the 200 simple gets a negative slope. Well, pretty damn similar to what we're doing right now. Again, I'm not saying that this is a fractal. It is not a fractal, but from a moving average perspective, this is a signature, which is something that I do put a lot of weight on. Again, I'm not a fucking fractal, but very, very similar price action, right? Bitcoin pops up on this, on this bull trap right here, major move up to the 200 simple. Of course, we actually do close above it, but the feeling is the same. We're unable to maintain above it, especially on a weekly closing basis, which is the most important. And does dictate the trend. And then once we kind of lose it, get rejected by it, like you see right in over here, then we see all major moving averages turn into a bearish posturing. So we see all the lower periods go below higher periods. We see the cyan 89 exponential moving average is kind of the last one to go below the 200. That happens right here. Then we see all major moving averages get a negative slope soon after that, like which happens right here. And then we see the 200 simple, most importantly, get a negative slope as well, right here and right here, which is like the next sort of dagger down. So, I do think that it is quite likely that we actually do continue from here to the downside. And that's why I'm keeping the rest of that open with kind of an area where I am, I'm intent to manage it and then perhaps add on more to it. Bitcoin is bearish on all time frames. Bitcoin looks like absolute shit. Bitcoin is, it's been fucking terrible ever since we broke 10,300 right here. We've been bearish ever since there on the macro, and each and every one of these pops up has just been, places to get short entries in. And I certainly missed a lot of trades within this region. I played pity bounces rather than playing the trend, and that's bad trading on my own behalf. It's not really what my strategy is set up to do. But when I feel like I'm kind of crunched for time, which I have been recently with dealing with the app and dealing with a few other things, you know, I'm more intent to play those lower time frame moves for those pity bounces, and that's just, you know, the best way to use my time in those stances. But I want to be very, very clear in stating that all of the trades that you saw me take and also post on YouTube within this region, which we're pretty much buying the bounces, that's not really good trading in my opinion, or at least it's not good trading the way that I deem it. Of course, you know, it makes money, but is that the sort of feeling that I want to get to in a long-term perspective? Absolutely not. Anyway, so looking at this right now, you know, a few more things are going on here. I want to go back down to the 12-hour, and the 12-hour is of particular note because we do have something else going on. In fact, sorry, to explain this better, I need to first go down to the 4-hour, right? So remember, on the 4-hour, we were saying that there was a descending triangle. Let me get a fresh chart. Is this one in? Let me get okay, let's completely make this fresh. So we had a descending triangle right here with that descending trend line right there, and then our base right around, let's call it 70-50-ish region, right? That's what broke the other day, the other night. And we hit the measure move on that one. That one was confirmed by not just structure, but also volume right here. We get that first major move down right here and a splurt back up. Keep that in mind because that's very important going forwards. As we're going to come back to this, and also, you know, it was a Fibonacci area as well. So if we go from the low to the high, you can see that was the 618 that we were breaking. You know, your natural target is going to be somewhere down around here. Just getting walked down, you know, by the algo. So why is that? Why is this important? Because this one's already played out. Well, if we go back to the 12-hour, right? What's going on in the 12-hour? Sorry, this just looks like it's a channel now. let me go back on over here. If we go back to the 12-hour, what's going on now? Well, we actually had, maybe it's easier to see. Nah, it's kind of easy to see on BitMexico. We actually have a new thing going on a greater formation, right? So this same volume signature on this ascending trend line is telling us that this lower time frame descending triangle is actually a piece of the greater whole, and the greater whole is encompassed by this signature right here, which would imply that really it's not instead of it, it's both. It's both actually. That the greater formation is this. You can see it matches up with the volume signature, it matches up with the structure, matches up with the 618 right here, or sorry, the 786 right here, and overall, that is what I think we're kind of constructing on the bigger time frames. And it's basically, you know, what do you call this? You call this an inverted cup and handle? Do you call this another bigger descending triangle? You can call it whatever the fuck you want. This is that curling down, rolling over hills of price action that is indicative of distribution over a long period, well, decently long period of time. In this case, about a month. So now what we can do, especially seeing as Bitcoin has closed on new lows, is we can actually come up with another measure move on top of this. However, I would say that this is a lot more experimental than the past prior one. The past prior one that we saw calling the move down about 6650, 6600, that one was a lot more obvious. This next one I don't think has as high of a hit degree, because I do think that it's actually very likely that we actually bounce in this region. But I do want to show this. If we take a Fibonacci extension here from that past prior consolidation, you can see that it naturally lines up exactly with the next target, which is down around low 6,000, 6,150 to be exact, the 1272. So these extensions I very rarely use, but when it lines up with other things, I do put weight on it. And this one happens to line up with a formation, which Bitcoin again loves the triangles. The volume signature is confirming, and structure is also confirming alongside the fibs. So I like all of that, and I do think that it's actually very possible that if we take this next leg down, that is where we're going to find our next base of support. We can also see that this level is also outlined pretty damn well by the volume profile on the higher time frames. If I just kind of zoom it out right here, you can see that that's like the last of the Mohicans for these higher value nodes within this region is like the low 6,000 numbers. So a lot of the time you will come back down and fill out those regions, not always, but just another confluential factor. So we have four things kind of governing that edge, lining up with each other. And I'd imagine that, if we maybe go to like a 3-day or something like that, the 377 is going to be, the 377 is actually, well, it's going to be crawling its way up. Maybe if we go to a chart with more, okay, we need to go to Bitstamp because it has more price action history. The 377 on a 3-day is not going to make sense on Mexico. And look at this, man. Where's the 377 coming in? 6,100. So we actually do have a lot of things pointed down around there. And while I do think that it's possible that we get another rally back up to test around the 200 simple and 10 simple on the 3-day, which could create a range between like 6,950 and 7,200. I do think that we will be making our way down here on the next leg. So keep your eyes on that. Many things align with each other: moving averages, volume profile, structure, Fibonacci extensions, and patterns. So, the more confluential factors, the better. The only thing that's really making me think that that's going to be a little bit kind of hard to do from this region is just that momentum oscillators on the time frames that that I care about are starting to get really hurt here. 12-hour Stokes are coming down pretty damn hard to the levels that we just don't see it stay at for too long. Pretty much all the times that it's gotten into this region, it does kind of have a quick reversal out. However, we have gotten a few times below there, to be fair, on very extreme pieces of price action. It's definitely happened before. But, if you're going off statistics, I would say that, how much more downside do we have legitimately before the next sort of bounce? I would say at most another $500 from here before the next sort of, big bounce. Not only that, we do see 12-hour Jewel is that was a continuation sell signal yesterday. Now, I technically did take this signal, to be fair, but I would not get into a habit of taking signals like this. It's more important to look at the weekly, which was a continuation from the last few weeks. From sells in the early July session. So this, is still bearish, of course. But again, how often do we get below this region or into this region? It's definitely happened a few times on major pivots on the market. But it's the probabilities start to work a little bit more against you. So we'll actually look at we'll look at the probability ranges with regards to historical volatility, expected moves essentially a little bit later. And they're probably going to match up with all these things, I'd imagine. In fact, let's just actually go there right now and see what it's printing. I'm curious. Let's see. Let's go to a daily. Okay, nice. And volatility expanding, so these ranges are getting a lot more thick. You do see that the third standard deviation is actually, okay, so it actually is pretty unlikely. The third standard deviation is actually above 6250. So looking for that to happen right now, perhaps not the best way to, perhaps unlikely to happen today, and I would probably agree. I would likely agree with that. More importantly, though, to me, you can see that the range on the 3-day, right, between the 200 simple and the 10 simple is pretty much outside of the third standard deviation to the upside. So it's very, 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 very unlikely that we reverse here. In fact, even the second standard deviation is below the 200 simple on the 3-day. So of course, we have a fresh 3-day, so we got another 3 days of action to kind of, shift through on this next, I'm just making sure that everything's working over here. Okay, good. On this next phase, if you want to call it that. And it's pretty, it would be by a statistical standpoint, less than, this would be less than 2.5% to the upside right here, that we actually break back above the 200 simple, at the very most, and even less than like 0.5% back above like 7,100. Although if we did get back above the 200 simple, that would be good enough for me to expect more of a bounce, or at least more sideways action within the lower 7,000s. And it's not a time to be adding back onto shorts or starting new shorts or anything like that. That's kind of how I'd play it. So, I'd want to see like a quick rejection there and then close below that critical level, which from a statistical standpoint is actually very, very likely here. But again, it's going to take 3 days, no matter what, to confirm or deny that. And those are obviously going to move alongside price actions. So it will be reactive to things. But for right now, that's kind of what I'd be looking at. Looking at 12-hour RSI. We're going to be building some divergence here for sure, but we need to confirm a local low first, and this is not a local low, this continuation. I see all these people on fucking crypto Twitter and crypto Instagram and crypto fucking Telegram groups, like I get forwarded these calls all the time. It's so fucking beautiful to watch, man. Everyone, I don't know where people learn divergence from, but it's certainly not the way that I understand it, and everyone's calling bullish divergence already, just like they were calling bullish divergence here, just like they were calling bullish divergence here. The same thing with all of these. There was no fucking local low confirmed. If your paid group leader is telling you that this is bullish divergence in this region, well, fair enough, man. It'll work out one of these times, and I'm sure that they'll post about it a million times on fucking Instagram or whatever it is, and tell you how they were right and you should buy what is it? What are they typically selling? Signals. Yes, signals. That's the word. Well, funnily enough, man, I think that speaks for itself. Even on a 4-hour, it's kind of far-fetched that we have any divergence plays to be had here. I'm sure that someone's saying, but Krown, we have divergence from 25th of November to the 17th of December on a 4-hour. Guess what? It's a fucking 4 hour, man. You're talking about a month's gap in price action between those two. Very unlikely, very fucking unlikely. We want to see like within this region right here, some sort of divergence plays, and we do not. There's actually no divergence to be had. We will be working on divergence on this next move down. Even if Bitcoin comes down to its prior low, it will have a potential divergence play here. But looking at historical volatility percentile still expanding on the lower time frames tells me that actually this trend is likely to continue, and putting that in line with our higher time frames that we were looking at for that new formation being constructed. I think it's actually very reasonable to think that we do move down to 6,100 before playing out a legitimate bounce. A legitimate bounce being like, you know, a $500 plus move. But again, that's neither here nor there. As a trader, I'm just going to be responsive to price action, not try to play 3D chess with this bitch and figure it out that way, because that just, I mean, well, it doesn't really work. Anyways, you know, I do think that it's appropriate to talk about invalidation levels. Of course, a 3-day 200 simple would be a big one. But from a higher time frame perspective, the weekly is bearish as fuck. BAF, if you want to call it that. We got some BAF going on right here, as long as we're below the last local high, which by the way was confirmed with that last move down below 75.50. So no longer do we have to wait for a higher high back above 9,500, back above here to potentially reverse the trend. We can now move it down right and over here, which probably sounds good to you if you're bullish because you're like, oh, it's closer now. Well, some bad news about that, unfortunately. It's a fucking downtrend, and it's getting more aggressive as time goes on. This is one of the biggest things that I think a lot of people intuitively, myself included when I first started, get wrong. When a trend is very strong, it is more likely to continue. And how do you judge a strong trend? One that's been going on for longer. It's kind of like a catch-22. But I would say that Bitcoin's more bearish here than it was over here, even though they're both downtrends, to be fair. You know, if you're just looking at it from a trending perspective, like Krown is fucking downtrend, you moron, just follow the trend. Yes, right, that is correct. But technically the trend is stronger here. If you're going from like a straight up, you know, like classical TA perspective. Not only that, but keep in mind, this last lower high that we just put in is very significant. Why? Because it's the rejection of getting back above this head and shoulders that we put in, you know, on the weekly right here. And as long as we are living below this neckline of the head and shoulders, then the target of the head and shoulders is valid and is active. Now, I do think that the target of it is very far away from price action. It's not something that I'd be just blindly targeting right now. I'm not trading for it. But it would be down around, you know, mid to low 4,000, which does line up with several other things. You can see the 886 Fibonacci tracement right here. If we throw in the volume profile, you'll notice that we have the thickest node down around here as well. And assets typically like to retest those areas. But I do think that it's, you know, it's too far away for me to consider as a trader. As a trader, I treat each and every one of these horizontals on these major pivots on the market as potential reversal points, including the one that we're actually on right now. Could Bitcoin still reverse from this horizontal here? Yes. And until we actually break it on, well, I mean, preferably a weekly, but even a daily would probably do it, and that would be below 65.50. Then I wouldn't consider this one, you know, nullified just yet, although it very likely does. I do not believe that we bottom out here. I believe that the bounce has already played out. You know, it was a phenomenal bounce from 65 all the way to almost 8,000. Really, really good move there. But I do believe that we will see this one shatter, and we will move down to the 786 alongside the 200 exponential moving average and alongside the 200 simple. That's the next fucking meme in this market, and why moving averages are gonna just, oh man, it sucks, man. I fucking love moving averages, but people are destroying them. When looking at the 200 simple, people are saying, Krown, we bottomed on the 200 simple once in Bitcoin, twice in Bitcoin's history. We will definitely not go lower than there, bro. Well, I have something very somber and perhaps to relate. Moving averages were made to be broken, and moving averages can and will break, and there's no reason why it held up over here and held up over here that it has to hold up a third time. 2 times is not a trend, by the way, and more importantly, it's not a destined thing. It's not a destined thing at all. It gives you insight to what the bias is on price action for what it's doing right now, but it doesn't do anything more than that. People act as if these things are like the crystal ballers. They're not. You know, you can use moving averages in so many unique ways, but holy shit, it's like the one way that you're not supposed to use moving averages is the one way that everyone on crypto Twitter is not everyone on crypto Twitter. Of course, it's arrogant to say. It's, you know, there's certainly some great people on there, but it's the one way that so many people are just enamored with, like just simple crosses, going back into history and looking at that. And then also and then also just saying, we'll be held up over here. And it's like, what happens if we break this one? Well, guys, I've calculated the 299 simple moving average on the weekly, and we won't be breaking it, bro, because it held up once. It's like, okay, that sounds like a great edge, man. Something that I definitely put money on. That's gambling, man. Always remember, 3 times makes a trend, and that's not the way to use moving averages. Moving averages are very phenomenal and perhaps the most important tool in my toolbox alongside the Joule. The Joule is better for other things, but they must, at least in the way that I've learned them, in the way that I've had the most success, I would disagree with the way that 90% of people that I see use them. Very, very misleading. Anyways, I do think that it's very likely that we have bounced in this region, mid 55s, upper 5,000s, mid 5,000s, perhaps it's a reversal point as well. But I do think that it's entirely possible that we go much lower. In fact, if we go back on over here to the Bitcoin V Wap ratio, I won't go over the full explanation, but I do want to point out that it is worsening. We are seeing the blue start to not just maintain below the regression, but more importantly, get rejected from getting back above the regression on that last move to the upside. And now we're breaking down. So I would expect that if we see the blue travel below the purple, which is all below the pink, we will see not just significant moves to the downside, very, very likely in the mid 5,000s and probably even into the mid 4,000s. But this market will not be reversing anytime soon. It'll probably be another year to a year, maybe even 2 years before Bitcoin actually does, put in a low and then confirm a reversal. And that's just a function of time, of course. But anytime we've gotten that specific signature, it's taken about that time, about a year. The last, or at least 6 months to like 2 years, I'd say, which is kind of a big range. But, the last example that we have was right on over here. So that took us all the way from this, I think this was perhaps not, I believe it was actually August. So we didn't reverse until March. So August to March, that's like about almost well, it's not necessarily, it's like 8 months to 10 months. The time before that we had the signature was back on over here. And that took us all the way from end of 2014 to beginning of 2016. So about a little bit over a year. The time before that was back on over here at the Genesis. So going all the way from, middle of 2011. And we confirm a reversal, I'd say right here is where it actually gets confirmed. So middle of 2012, so another year. So yes, historically speaking, it does take about a year after that signature is presented for like a confirmed reversal. Obviously, a low is put in before a reversal. So all the people who are obsessed with buying a low, which I would also argue is not the best way to do it. You still have to do a little bit of waiting time, but I think it's more important to wait for a confirmed reversal before going into an asset. So I'm never going to catch the ultimate high, the ultimate low of an asset. I want to be very, very straightforward with saying that. If you're looking for someone with the crystal ball for that, I'm not that person. I'm only here to share my experience and share, what I'm looking at for better or worse. I hope it helps in some way, and I hope they use that information in some good way as well, man. Like fucking, I don't know, use your profits to go buy your daughter some college education or some shit like that. Sorry, I don't know why I bring up that example. Just someone messaged me recently saying that they were doing that. I'm like, wow, that's fucking amazing. That's fucking amazing, man. I'm flattered and also really open to seeing the very intricate way that we're all kind of woven together in society now, and that's really a motivating factor. And this is like actually the second time it's happened. Like a while ago, someone told me that they were sending they're paying their daughter's medical school with the profits that they made. And it's like, that fucking amazing, man. Like fucking, who knows what she's gonna do with that? That's amazing. Anyways, okay, off my fucking high horse. Sorry about that. I do apologize, and I apologize about the very mean language as well. Just kidding. I get so many people complain about that. Hey man, if my language is never, intended to offend anyone unless like stated otherwise, which you probably have little reason to ever do that. So, if it offends you, I do apologize, because that's not my intention, but I'd also suggest that this channel is probably just not for you because, well, for obvious reasons, man, I'm probably not gonna stop, man. It's just my way of expressing myself when creating this content. That's all. Anyways, 2-day right here, I do want to point back out that 2-day Stokes were rejected from getting out of the bearish control zone, still stuck back in, but we are forming this trend line. So, how much more downside do we have here? Probably another couple ticks. So yes, higher time frames do show that we still have more room to the downside, of course. 3-day, same thing. Well, 3-day never really even got started, to be fair. Just kind of faded it as soon as it gave a little bit of a fake. And I think the daily also has some room as well. Or it's kind of getting down there, but I will show a few other things on the daily that I think are very important. What I also want to put the highlight on is 12-hour historical volatility percentile. This is now finally expanding. We have gotten down to the same zero reads that we've seen in the past that have precipitated multi-$1,000 moves. The last one that we saw was mid-November from 8,800 moving down to 6,600. So $2,000 move right there. Time before that we saw was back on over here in 2018, November, before moving from 6,000 to 3,000, $3,000 move. Time before that was during this drama right here, going from about 9,000 down to 6,000. And time before that was actually right here, moving from about 6,500 all the way to 8,500. So $2,000 moves doesn't tell you the direction of them, but does tell you that we're likely looking at a big move in price action, and setting that to expand from this current region, that actually would align with mid to low 4,000s, to be fair. However, I don't think that you can blindly just say that because we've had that signature in the past, we're going to definitely get a 2,000 or more dollar move. But I do think that it's appropriate to say that we probably do get a pretty damn sizable move. So fair enough. Like I said, I won't go over long-term analysis during this video just because, well, that's all in the long-term analysis playlist. So I don't really have too much to add on to that. Nothing's really changed there except for the bearish, situation is emerging. And what's up, Raju Math? Hopefully I'm saying that right, man. Good to meet you, man. Welcome to the cave, my friend. So yeah, let's go check out CMEs. CMEs are the ones that I want to put a spotlight on as well. They've been the easier chart to read, and more importantly, we did play out the descending triangle right here to the T, and we hit the measure move on it. But we don't see the same sort of thing that we saw on Bitcoin actually, with this new formation right here, or do we? No, not really. The volume signature does not agree with that. So perhaps I am wrong about that next one. About that next measure move down to 6,100. Don't have a super strong opinion about that. But what I do have a strong opinion about is momentum oscillators on CMEs. We do see daily Stokes rejection the bearish control zone and down. That's typically very bad, and it has a lot of more room to go. Daily RSI now is going to be creating bullish divergence, but we need to confirm a local low first, and getting the death cross right in over here on CMEs is a big fucking deal to me. Very big deal. And we're obviously below the 200 simple as well. And more importantly, just going back in time, I do think that a lot of people who are looking for this horizontal right here to hold price action are going to be probably humbled a little bit. Everyone always sends me their charts. Krown, I found the diagonal that's been saving Bitcoin for forever. It's like, come on, man. Let's be honest here. Let's just be fucking honest, because a lot of those times, how do you manage risk on a diagonal like this? Technically, it has been working, but what do you do when you get a wick below? If you've been using wicks the whole way through, do you just say, maybe this one pops back up and I just hold on through it? I don't know about that, man. It needs to be standardized. As far as a trader goes, it needs to have some verifiable area of managing risk. And I feel like this is a lot of like an analyst type thing where they just say, oh, I found the perfect one. It's like, do you trade it? Well, hopefully not, because you'd be broke. Very, very difficult to make trades off that. That's why I trust horizontals a lot more, because if you're gonna have a good diagonal trend line, it's gonna naturally match up with the horizontal anyways. Now, I do want to put the spotlight on the gap in price action right here. I'm sure a lot of people are talking about the gap at 7,200. That would align with the 3-day resistance if we were to pop back up. However, I do think that it's actually very unlikely that we do test back up towards this region. The more and more that I look at things, and if we do, it's probably a sell, at least for me. But I'll still play it by ear. Don't want to get too carried away when price action's still kind of in the decision phases. Weekly. Bearish all the way through. All major moving averages sloping down. 4 hour, still no bullish divergence to be found. However, we will be building some, very likely. It's very difficult to kind of keep up this pressure on price action. So maybe another retest of the lows, maybe a little bit lower, and then probably do put it in as Bitcoin slumps back down below 6,630. Oh man, Bear Jesus is coming in with his red dildos hot and ready to fook all bullish bungholes, shish kebab style, my friends. Anyways, let's go check out GBDC, see if anything's going on there. I do think that GBTC leads to the downside. Okay, so GBTC is interesting because we had that same descending triangle, and we've already met the measure move on it. Okay, yeah, we still see the same sort of death cross going on right here. Bitcoin's fucking bearish, man. Bitcoin's fucking bearish, and I don't see any reason to be bullish on it until we close a 3-day, until we open and close a 3-day above the 200 simple, or or more importantly, get a weekly back above 75.50. Then I'd be interpreting that. Then I'd be looking at it as potential reversal. So I want to be very, very straightforward with that, because I don't want it to be any surprise when I'm going to change my mind on Bitcoin. Above the 3-day 200 simple, that's the first major warning signal, and probably good enough. Above weekly close above 75.50, the last prior high, good enough for me. At least a try position, I'd say. Okay, cool. I've been speaking for, oh my God, man, it's already been 40 minutes. Oh my God. Let's go look at the top shitcoins, see how they're doing. Mr. Butyrol. Oh no, Mr. Butyrol, why? Why do you have to wreck me? By the way, Vitalik revealing that he sold 80,000 Butyrols on top of your face. For all the people who are telling me that Mr. Butyrol is going to be the next fucking big thing, probably not. Well, maybe. Who knows, man? Who fucking knows? But with a chart like this, I'd say it's unlikely. Oh, that's bullish. That's bullish, Mrs. Litecoin. I actually do think that Mrs. Litecoin's in kind of a bounce area. I think that most of these things are kind of in a bounce area. But this is Litecoin leading up into the halving, the thing that everyone's excited about. Well, it's well below the. But guys, the 200 simple on Litecoin must hold. Wrecked. Not so good, man. I do think that it's actually nearing an area of bounce, or very, very high probability of bounce, somewhere in this like mid 30s region. Trend is still very much down. I'd still be very much bearish on it, but probably bounces relatively soon. EOS. Oh no, not EOS. Probably down to 205 on the next leg. NEO. No, my NEOs. 750 on the next leg, probably. Tron. No, new lows. Stop it, Tron. My Trons were supposed to make me rich. Well, Bcash probably down to 157 on the next leg as well. It's kind of in a bouncy area as well, though. How much more downside does it have before bounce? Maybe as much as like 157. Zcash. Zcash is still in a downtrend. What? But we already had the classic 97% down. Well, how could this be? This is the fucking government's fault. They're covering this bitch up. Fuck. I'm accumulating DCA right now. It's like the delusion that I see in the crypto market currently. It's fucking great, man. Absolutely great. Cardano, our shitcoin index. No, not another lower high. No. How could this happen? How could Trump let this happen? And major hidden bearish divergence on a weekly as well. This thing's probably coming back. It already hit our 480 target, and I do believe that we're going to come down to the low side of the range, like 450. And probably most altcoins are bearish versus Bitcoin, if I had to say a blanket statement. Looks shitty, man. Let's go check out some forex. Let's go check out gold. Gold looks probably good for another move to the upside on a weekly schedule. Daily is kind of sloppy, but it does look like it wants to hit in 1493. What about pound yen? Coming down, but I do think that it bounces here. Probably bounces back up in the middle of this range, but I do believe that longer term we are putting in a severe lower high, and we're going to see major hidden bearish divergence play out between this point and this point. Probably come down longer term back down to this region, 137 and a half. Euro dollar. I think it's going to have a chance to switch around to bullish, but I still need to see a weekly close above 111.5, 111.6 would be good enough. And I'll look for an extension up into this region here, 113, 113.5. What about Dixie dollar index? What are we doing? Let's see, what does a daily look like? What does a daily look like? Probably back up towards 97.5. So yeah. It's like crypto Twitter's worst nightmare. SPY, new all-time highs. Continues to go on. Now, here's the thing with SPY. I remain to be bullish on this, but I do believe that you can you can move up the point to invalidation of being bullish all the way up here towards 315 and lower time frames. Lower time frames, do we get to move back down to like 317 and a half? Yeah, probably, but I would still remain overall bullish and probably expect to bounce there as long as we hold this level 315-ish region. So Powerful, fucking powerful. It's like crypto. This is like a crypto anarchist's worst nightmare. But I was told this was a scam. It has to go down. It's like, no, you're dealing with the president right now, who will do everything in his power to force this market up. So good luck with that. I mean, it's just like a major breakout right here. Yes, the volume is a little bit floaty, but again, I don't really see any reason to be bearish on this as long as we're above 315. And if you want to be even more conservative than that, I would say back down around here as long as we're above 310-ish region, a little bit below 310. It's fine. You know, we can have our pullbacks and everything. That's cool, but the trend is up, and the trend is your friend. Even if you hate it, the trend is still your friend. If you let it be. All you have to do is just let it. Anyways, I think that's going to do it for I think that's going to do it for me. I'm going to start a Twitch stream straight up after this. Let's see. I am apprehensive to call the next move to the downside, although technically we did break this trend line here, and we are using it as resistance thus far. I still kind of want to reserve the right to not call this next move. Not that I even need to. Again, I'm holding, for full transparency, I am holding the rest of my short, but I already closed 3/4 of it. Verification right there with your realized P&L, and I'm happy to let this one ride for the rest of it with the stop and profit. So that's what I'll be doing right now. It does look to me like Bitcoin's actually very capable of breaking down from here without getting another bounce, or at the very least retesting lows at 65.50. I would look for any sort of a bottoming, any sort of a local low formation, and then perhaps, yes, we will have divergence, likely at the very least on the medium to low time frames. It's going to be very easy to create divergence here. So I do think that if you missed that initial short, this is probably not the time to be throwing them on right now, at least in my opinion. But this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just kind of sharing what I'd be doing in these regions. If we do have another leg down, I'd be looking towards 62 to 6100-ish region, and probably another bounce there. And that would certainly create a lot of divergences on just about every time frame. So could have a sizable bounce there. But keep in mind, as we come to closer and closer to the end of the month here, we got another 2 weeks or a little bit less than 2 weeks. If the monthly closes anywhere below the 21 exponential moving average, which is 70-50-ish region, I will be very bearish and looking for price action to come down at the very least to the mid 5,000s and probably lower. I think it's very, very likely we'd find our way down here. And momentum oscillators are green. Monthly SOX very bearish. Monthly RSI getting rejected. Looks seem like at the very least it wants to test back down to the bearish control zone. So I continue to be bearish on Bitcoin. The only sort of upside that I really see on Bitcoin is low time frame upside. If it even gets that, I mean, right now it's still under pressure. It actually does look like we're going to get another leg before a bounce, before like a legitimate bounce. But as long as a bounce does not get us back above the 3-day 200 simple, which is about 7,000, a little bit below 7,000, and especially as long as it fails to get a weekly close back above 75.50, I will be overall bearish. And the only upside that I see is it's just short-term time frame bounces. So with that said, I want to wish you well. I'm gonna go start a stream on Twitch right now, and take care.